2025.
Project 2025.
Project 2025.
Trump's Project 2025.
Pennsylvania, how we do.
So what is Project 2025? So Project 2025 is a 900-page guidebook written by a Republican think tank on policies Donald Trump should enact if he should become president. Project 2025 has been in works for years, but while Donald Trump was running for president, he said he has nothing to do with this document. He's not even read it, even though some of the authors of the documents were individuals he had in his 2016 administration. And now that he is president, he's already started appointing some of these authors into his administration. Since my page deals with real estate, I'm going to talk about the chapter deals with real estate, and that's written by Ben Carson. He was the former Secretary of the Housing and Urban Development Department during Trump's 2016 administration. Reads that too often HUD programs have led to intergenerational poverty traps, have implicitly penalized family formation in traditional two-parent marriages, and have discouraged work and income growth, thereby limiting upward mobility. So let me break this down for you guys. This excerpt is saying that HUD programs and other rental assistance programs funded by the government, such as Section 8, have prevented families from forming two-parent marriage households. They discourage working and discourage increasing your income, thereby limiting the potential of upward mobility, or essentially further bettering yourself financially. So I feel like parts of this assessment is fair, because if you have a Section 8 voucher, this in a way discourages you from growing your income, because with Section 8 the majority of the rent is paid by the government. So there's a portion that the tenant will pay to the landlord, and there's a portion that the government will pay for the landlord. And I have tenants who pay $0 because their income is so low. So essentially, if your income grows, then your portion that you have to pay to your landlord now increases. So essentially, it almost benefits you to have a lower income when it comes to Section 8 housing, because the lower your income is, the lower the amount of rent you'll have to pay. But if you increase your income, you thereby likely have to pay a higher amount of rent. Individual Section 8 vouchers tend to be on other government assistance programs. This allows for them to pay for their everyday needs. Because Section 8 is a rental assistance program, some tenants do not want to work because they do not want their income to exceed a threshold where they no longer qualify for the voucher. And like I said before, they want to minimize the amount of rent they have to pay and maximize the amount of rent that the government has to pay. So what I have seen tenants who do work is that they'll work jobs under the table. They'll typically be paid cash only, so they don't have to report their income to the IRS, and therefore this allows them to maintain their voucher status and also allows them to minimize the amount they have to pay for their contribution to the rent. So the current Housing of Urban Development Secretary, his name is Scott Turner. He's already came out with proposals that potentially people who are receiving rental assistance having to have a work requirement tied to that rental assistance program so that they can hopefully graduate from the program. If an individual receiving rental assistance also has a job, this will lower the contribution the government will have to pay for the rental assistance, thereby saving the government some money. So if you talk to these voucher holders, they're typically single mothers with multiple kids. So if you are now requiring them to get a job, what's going to happen with these kids? Because a lot of them have younger kids and they're typically the primary caregiver. So if they're not required to work, now they have that extra expensive daycare. And we all know how daycare can get expensive. Individuals' highest expense within their household. So in a way, their income may go up, but at the same time their expenses may also go up because they may have added expenses now that they're required to work. also talks about that rental assistance programs such as Section 8 discourages individuals from becoming married. And I agree with this because typically the voucher holder is a single mother, as I mentioned before, with multiple kids. So say if the father of the baby now marries the mother of the child, the father of the baby, if he is working, his income may then now disqualify the family from getting the voucher. So now they no longer are able to get the voucher. Like I said before, this added income may now increase the contribution the family then has to make towards the rent payment and minimize the payment the government then has to make. So what I've seen is if the mother and the father are still together, they of course will not be married, and the mother of the child will have the voucher and she'll go find housing, hopefully something big enough to also accommodate the father of the baby, and then she'll move into the rental unit, and once she moves in, then the father of the child will then follow and take up this rental unit as his primary place of residence. So that's a way that individuals kind of avoid the father of the baby will never be on the voucher, but he'll still be living in the rental unit because he would then be using the mother of his children's voucher in order to get free or very discounted rent. So Chapter 15 also states that the Trump administration should prohibit non-citizens, including all mixed status families, from living in all federally assisted housing. So essentially states that this statement within Project 2025 is stating that if an individual is receiving rental assistance from the government, the place they're using that rental assistance for cannot have a non-citizen living there. This means if your spouse is a non-citizen, they should not be living there. If your child is a non-citizen, or if your parents are non-citizens, HUD already estimated how many children specifically would be evicted if this should be the case, and they estimated that 55,000 will be evicted if they mandated if no non-citizen is living in the household of the individual who's receiving government rental assistance. So the last part of Chapter 15 that I'm going to talk about is a statement in which it states that the Trump administration should implement a maximum term limit for residents in the PBRA and TBRA programs. So essentially with this statement is recommending that if an individual is receiving rental assistance such as Section 8, that rental assistance not be for life. The Section 8 program, if you have a Section 8 voucher, you typically have that Section 8 voucher for life. And in my personal experience and talking to other landlords, I have not seen an individual who got a Section 8 voucher graduate from the program. So with this new recommendation, it would have a set time limit that you have this Section 8 voucher. They're hoping that if they make this proposal, that this will incentivize individuals receiving rental assistance such as Section 8 to hopefully forward progress and eventually get to a point where they no longer require the Section 8 voucher arrangements to increase their income to a point where they can now afford medium rent in the city that they're living in and know that there's an end date to their voucher and they will no longer be receiving this rental assistance. They are making this recommendation with the hopes that if they put a set time limit to how long they'll receive rental assistance, that they will continually progress in the direction where they no longer need the voucher and know how much time that they have to progress in order to eventually afford median rent in wherever they're living or decide to live somewhere where they can't afford median rent. I understand why they're making this proposal, but they have to also understand that many Section 8 voucher holders qualify for a voucher because they fall below a certain income line. Many individuals with Section 8 vouchers are single mothers with multiple kids, and a lot of people who have these vouchers did not graduate college, and many of them did not graduate high school. Therefore, they typically will only be hired to work low-wage jobs. And unfortunately, with low-wage jobs, you don't make enough money working a low-wage job to afford median rent in many cities. And these individuals have to find places that are big enough where they can live in and also for their kids to live in. So it'll be very difficult, even if they progress, for them to afford rent in many of these cities. So as of now, Project 2025 is just a guidebook for the Trump administration and nothing is set in stone. But as you can see, since Trump has came in office, he's already been putting into motion some of the recommendations that Project 2025 has in store. So we'll have to wait and see if some of these things do come to fruition. So that's a wrap for this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you know anybody that will benefit from my content, make sure you are sharing it with them. If you're not subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe. I'll be updating you guys with videos weekly, especially with our new administration. There's been constant changes and you won't want to miss my videos because I'll be detailing every one of them. The Dr. Investor is out.